What's wrong with Cal? Why is Cal a bad guy? And I love how it seems to me that James Cameron and the people, the makers of that movie, are saying money is bad. And I guess spending $200 million to tell us money is bad is somehow good. I guess, spending $200 million to lecture us about how bad money is good as long as he's making the money. So James Cameron is telling us money is bad as he's making bank. Hey everybody, it's JP Alexander here for Mental Minutia. This is episode 5, titled Cal Hockley. Cal Hockley. If you don't know who I'm talking about, you will in a minute. Anyway, it is Sunday, November 2nd, 2025. Time's flying. I'm telling you, when you get older, time just keeps flying. Anyway, today I want to talk about a man who got a lot of bad press, a character. And also, I believe, the actor who played him. Cal Hockley, his name is Calden Hockley, actually his full name. He is a character from the movie Titanic, a fictional character. He's not real. He was made up for the movie to be the bad guy, And he's played by Billy Zane, an actor I happen to like. So anyway, in the movie, we all know that they go on the Titanic. Cal Hockley brings his fiancée, who is Kate Winslet, Rose. Her name is Rose. He brings her and her mother, actually. He even brings her mother, her widowed mother, on the trip. And he brings his bodyguard, played by David Warner. If anybody knows David Warner, great British actor, but he always plays the heavy because, well, he looks like the heavy. And I believe this is probably one of his last films. He was a really good actor. I guess he plays his bodyguard in this. So anyway, Cal brings, her on a cruise, and Leonardo DiCaprio plays this guy, Jack, who wins the tickets in a card game, him and his Italian friend, Fabrizio, I don't know, and they get to stay in a bunk bed out of 2 bunk beds in a room for the third class passengers. And I guess the other 2 guys in the room were Swedish because they won the tickets in a card game from 2 Swedes who they were playing cards with at the dock that Titanic was leaving on. Was that in England or was that in Ireland? I know Titanic was built in Ireland, but I'm not sure where they... No, they left from Southampton, England, right? Anyway, so they all get on a boat and you're introduced, and I guess Rose isn't happy, having to marry Cal because her mother's, I guess, pushing her into that marriage because it'll help their financial situation because Cal is rich. He's a rich guy. He's part of a rich family. His father's rich, I guess, and he's set to take over the family business, I guess, and he's going to be extremely rich. And they're going to be extremely rich, and good, great. In 1912, women don't even have the right to vote yet in 1912, and most of them don't work, and when they do work, it's horrible jobs that don't pay a lot, So, I know that if her mother saw her dating Cal, she would say, marry that guy, because he's going to be worth a lot of money. And believe me, there's probably a queue of women who want to marry Cal, but they can't because she is lucky enough to marry Cal. Anyway, I guess she doesn't like an arranged marriage, and she's in love with Cal. And I guess I can understand that, But anyway, she is 17 in this, played by 22-year-old Kate Winslet. And Cal is played by 31-year-old Billy Zane, but it's not. I mean, what is it? In real life, they're 9 years apart, but in a movie, they're supposed to be 13 years apart. And Jack, Leonardo DiCaprio, is 23 when they film this movie, 22 or 23, whatever. Anyway, they're on the cruise, and I guess Jack, who shouldn't be allowed up on the deck, he should be in the third class, accommodations where, I heard a lot of reports that at that time, third class passengers couldn't even get up on the deck. But anyway, he did, and he's hanging out, and he sees Rose, who wants to kill herself because, she has to marry him. Is it bad? She could marry him and then leave him or divorce him, and then he has to pay for her. I mean, I don't know. I'm just thinking realistically. How bad was it that Rose is forced to marry a multimillionaire back in 1912? Is it that bad? Again, it's bad now. You would think it was bad now. I don't think in 1912 it would have been considered that bad. A lot of women would have said, well, I don't love him, but he does have a hell of a lot of money, and what am I going to do? My mother's a widow. My father wasn't rich. She didn't get a lot of money from him. I could get a lot of money from Cal. Whatever. I don't know. All I know is that it's played way worse than I think it is in real life. Anyway, she meets Jack. He saves her. And then she falls in love with Jack. Okay. So the first time Cal meets Jack is when she tried to kill herself and Jack saved her. And then everybody comes around saying, hey, what the hell happened? And she's like, and they think Jack did something wrong. It's like, no. I almost slipped off of here and Jack saved me. Okay. And then, Cal was like, oh, hey, thanks. Can I give you some money? Now, that's played in this movie as bad. That's not bad. Okay? That's not bad. Most people in third class would have said, like, yeah, sure. I'll take a few bucks for saving your wife's life. Sure, I'll do that. Because, they don't have a lot of money, and Cal does. I mean, Okay. So Cal then invites, I guess, well, she might invite him, but Cal seconds it. He agrees with it, and they invite him to dinner the next night. Now, here's the thing. Cal is painted as a horrible guy. In 1912, Cal, most men, okay, not Cal. Obviously, Cal seems kind of progressive to me because he's actually, inviting this guy to dinner. Now, anybody with half a brain would know this guy is, maybe he saved her life, but, you got to watch out for these guys around your wife, your fiancé, excuse me. Of course, and most men would be like, here's a few bucks, and then he whispers in his ear, get the F out of here, and don't bother my wife again, okay? That's what pretty much a lot of men would do, especially rich men in 1912. Even now, a lot of men would say, good, I'll give you this money. I expect you to stay away from my wife from now on. That doesn't seem too crazy to me. Maybe in 1997, when this movie was made, people would say, oh, my God, how could he do that? But the truth of the matter is, in 1912, that would not have been out of the ordinary. As a matter of fact, him inviting Jack to have dinner with them is not ordinary, So, okay, so they have dinner with Jack the next night, and there's a few real people there. I guess one of the guys who worked on the ship, played by, what's his name? I forget his name, but anyway, he's a kind of a semi-famous actor. And Kathy Bates plays the unsinkable Molly Brown, and she's there, and they're drawing little jabs at Cal because he's so, he hangs on to her kind of tight, but obviously not that tight if she met Jack, on the deck of the ship. So, I'm trying to see how Cal is being that bad of a guy here, but I'm not seeing it. I'm sorry. So anyway, yeah, they're drawing abusers at, and why would they? It's like, I don't, as a matter of fact, Molly Brown, okay, she was poor and then she got rich. So I don't know how she was in real life, how she would have treated Jack. Would she have been, hey, this is a great guy, even though he's the third, Again, he seemed like a grifter to me, playing cards, winning a ticket back to America and taking it. And I mean, I don't know. He seems like a nice guy to me, but again, he's third class. So a lot of people in first class wouldn't want anything to do with him. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's 1912, okay? Just think about the time frame, okay? Don't think Rose was hanging out in 1997 and Cal's such a bad guy. No, Cal's actually, for 1912, he's pretty forward-thinking, when he allows her to meet a guy and invite him to dinner with them. And who's paying for the dinner? Probably Cal. I don't think Jack is paying his way. Cal's probably paying for Jack. And I think it's a good thing. You saved my fiance. Well, okay, so as the movie goes on, he's hanging out with Rose more and more, which, would upset probably most guys. It would upset probably 98% of men, except men who like to watch their wives have, relations with other guys. Anyway, that's a whole other the story. We can get to that on another podcast. But, yeah, so obviously, Cal is mad. Okay. That's supposed to be looked down upon or something. We're supposed to hate Cal because of that. Hate Cal because of that. No, I actually expect Cal to be worse. I expect Cal to send his bodyguard down to third class to speak with Jack and say, hey, stay away from his fiancée, or you're going to have me talking with you. And it ain't going to be as nice as this is. Is that bad? That would be expected for the time. And that would even happen sometimes now. Now a lot of guys would be, I think jealousy still exists in this world. I don't know. But 1912, yeah, I would definitely think that's what Cal would do. But anyway, he's a bad guy. All day long, he's probably making deals, and he's probably trying to do the Morse code to his father in whatever state who's running the business. He has to be on top of this stuff. And in 1912, it wasn't like, a lot of news was playing on the television because there was no television. Okay. So, yeah. So, he had to keep. So it seems all day long he's doing things that have to do with his business and making money. And for some way, that's bad. He should let his wife just start an affair with somebody else. I don't think so. I don't know. Would James Cameron let one of his wives, who he ended up cheating on, just, start an affair with somebody? Well, I guess that's true love. Have fun. I shouldn't be, I shouldn't get in the way of it. I should let it happen, right? Again, Cal's getting blamed by all the 12-year-old girls who love this movie because I asked somebody what was wrong with Cal once, and this woman said he was getting in the way of true love. Okay, I guess you could think of it as that. Okay, so as the movie goes on, Cal gets really upset. Of course, obviously. I don't blame him for that at all. He sends his bodyguard to kill Jack. Maybe that was a little extreme, but it was the heat of the moment, I guess. if, his, bodyguard would have gotten Jack away from Rose, he probably would have liked that. If Rose would have went to him and he would have taken her, because, when they lived, him and, Rose's mother, they were hanging out on the other ship that rescued them to go back to New York, and he was even looking for her when she was on that ship and she was trying to avoid him. He was even looking for her because he still cared for her, and he still he would still marry her, and he gave her that chicken of the sea, whatever it's called. What is it? The heart of the ocean or something. From now on, I'm going to call it the chicken of the sea. So he gives her that, which is like worthless. It's worthless because you can't put a price on it. I mean, the worth is just so much money. It's crazy. Worthless. Priceless. Okay. So, wow. And he gave her that thing. And she thanks him by having an affair with some grifter. Okay. That would piss me off, and I'm sure it would piss off, again, 98% of men. And in 1912, probably 100% of men, But anyway, we're told he's a bad man because he's getting in the way of their true love. You bring your fiancée on a cruise and you take her mother along too, and then she, thanks you by having starting an affair with a, I think that's pretty bad. Anyway, she then is floating on a piece of wood, and Jack tries to get on the wood, but he can't fit, even though it seems pretty big enough to me. But and then he falls in the water and he drowns, and she lets him drown. Now, I think she let him drown because, well, he did his job. His job was to get away from Cal. So she used him to get away from Cal, and now that he's dying, okay, that's fine. Because if he didn't die, I'd have to hang around him in New York, and he probably couldn't find a job, and he'd probably be drinking, and he'd probably start to beat me, and he probably, I'd get tired of him, and he wouldn't be able to find a job. If anybody had seen the movie Revolutionary Road, which was years after Titanic, but it starred the same cast, the same two leads, Kate Winslet and Leonardo DiCaprio, and also starred as their neighbor, Kathy Bates, in a good role. So yeah, it started a lot of the same cast, and they played. This is what I think would have happened to Jack and Rose. Jack has like a middle management job, Rose is not happy because, she's married to Jack, and he works and he makes money, but she's still not happy. She wanted to be an artist, an actress, a singer, whatever she wanted to be. And her marrying him got in the way, damn it. So she ends up killing herself in that film. And if you say that's a spoiler, the film is 20 years old. You probably should have watched the film back then. If you didn't, I don't care. Are you even going to rent out, Revolutionary Road, and try to find it to watch it? But to me, that is what would have happened to Jack and Rose if Rose wouldn't have let him drown. Anyway, but he had done his job. He helped her get away from Cal, and he's succeeding in his job. I don't need him anymore. He's dying, which is, good. I don't have to actually kill him myself. He dies, and now I could go free and do what I want, be an actress. Okay, so that's basically what happened. So I don't see Cal as a bad guy, really that bad of a guy. And then Rose, later on when she's 103, whatever, says, I heard Cal lost all this money in the stock market crash of 1929, and he killed himself. It's made to be like, he killed himself. Oh, okay, good. I guess that's good that he killed himself, because, he runs a large corporation and he dies, so the corporation probably goes under and a lot of people lose their jobs. I guess that's okay as long as Cal dies. Jack died, now Cal dies. So everybody who I fall in love with died. And my husband, obviously, he's dead. Everybody who has a relationship with Rose ends up dying eventually. But anyway, I don't know if that means anything. I don't think so. But anyway, she seems to be happy hearing that Cal had died. And all the 12-year-old girls in the audience are probably like clapping that Cal died, 18 years later or whenever it was. Stockholm Convention 1929. So that would be, 27 years later, I guess he killed himself. Anyway, so then, she's on there speaking to all these guys. We all know the story in the movie. And she's telling all these guys that. And she says, I don't have a chicken of the sea. I don't know where it is. I don't know where it went, So she became an actress or whatever, and she ended up marrying her granddaughter's grandfather, obviously. And Susie Amos, who James Cameron ended up cheating on Linda Hamilton with, who he ended up cheating on his first wife with Linda Hamilton. And now he's cheating on Linda Hamilton with Susie Amos, who he's still married to now, actually. So Susie Amos played Rose's granddaughter. And it could have been her great-granddaughter. I mean, Rose is 103, right? I mean, Susie Amos was 35. Can you believe that? I can't believe that. She actually looks in the 20s in the movie. But anyway, she plays her granddaughter who's taking care of her. Now, here's another thing I want to bring up. Imagine being her granddaughter or her grandson or, one of her relatives. Offspring, or whatever. Being on, this boat and explaining to all these people what happened and explaining the heart of the ocean, a chicken of the sea, whatever. And the ship of dreams. Titanic was the ship of dreams. That was his main voyage and it sunk. Was it the ship of dreams? I don't know. I think we're all putting a lot of, stock in the name Titanic because it sank. But if it didn't sink, I mean, I don't know, would it have been known as something as iconic as the Queen Mary? Probably not. I don't know. It was just the biggest ship at that time. When that sank, there was another bigger ship, and then other ships were made that were bigger. And through the years, they kept making bigger and bigger and bigger ships. So how many of them can you name? How many of them were thought of the ship of dreams? Anyway, it sounds more like the ship of nightmares to me. But hey, I'm just an observer who's saying what I say. It seems like the ship of nightmares, the ship of fools to me. Anyway, so yeah. So they're explaining it, and she ends up talking about Jack and calling Jack the love of her life. Do you imagine her granddaughter, okay, sitting there hearing this? Wouldn't the granddaughter say, hey, wait a minute, Grandma. I know you're a little, you might have some wet brain there, but my grandfather, who I love as much as I love you, he wasn't, your soulmate. He wasn't the man of your dreams. The love of your life, the man of your dreams, was some grifter who you knew 85 years ago for 3-4 days. That guy was the love of your life. You slept with him once in an old car, probably uncomfortably, and that was so good. That guy was the love of your life. He saved you, He saved you from marrying a guy who was worth millions upon millions of dollars in 1912. Okay, I guess you could say that, but the love of your life. So whatever you did after 85 years ago is pretty worthless, because that was the best time of your life. Those 3 days, 85 years ago, when you almost died, and this so-called love of your life did die, and you seem to have let him die. So I think you're getting some water on the brain. That's what I think. I don't know, because this sounds pretty stupid to me, and I'm going to tell my father, your son, or my father, who's your son-in-law. I don't know, but all I know is I'm shocked and I'm hurt, and I'm going to tell the whole family, because you obviously have got some issues you have to, you have to deal with in your old age. I'm not, as a matter of fact, I'm not going to tell anybody, because I think you have wet brain. So I'm going to put it towards you're probably losing it. You're 102, 103, or whatever you want. I'm just going to say you're losing it, okay? And it was 85 years ago, and you don't know what you're saying, okay? Grandpa's dead, and you're not thinking about him. You're thinking about this story so much that, you had a fun romp with some grifter 85 years ago on the Titanic. I'm going to leave it as that, So, yeah, so I guess my, reason for making this is because I always thought when I saw the movie, I was 30 when I saw the movie, so I wasn't a 12-year. No, I was 32. No, well, actually 31 when I saw the movie. So, I wasn't as taken by the 12-year-old girls, and I saw things a little more clearly with my 31-year-old brain going, what's wrong with Cal? Why is Cal a bad guy? And I love how it seems to me that James Cameron and the people, the makers of that movie, are saying money is bad. And I guess spending $200 million to tell us money is bad is somehow good. I guess, spending $200 million to lecture us about how bad money is good, as long as he's making the money. So James Cameron is telling us money is bad as he's making bank. Okay, I mean, the word that comes to my mind is hypocrisy. But hey, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you have to spend money to, go against money. Maybe that's the way, Maybe you shouldn't listen to poor people when they make fun of money. You should listen to rich people when they make fun of money. Other people would say, well, Cal was part of a big corporation. Yeah, that hired a lot of people during bad times. Okay. Hollywood's a big corporation too. Okay. And, they seem to be spending money telling us that other big corporations are bad, but not Hollywood. Okay. And another thing I want to say about this film, when it was sinking, when the ship was sinking, they said women and children first. I would actually argue that and say, well, wait a minute. Maybe the women and children in third class. But in first class, we probably should save the men first. I know it's a bad thing to say. I know it's horrible. But just bear with me for a second. A lot of the men in first class on that ship were rich, obviously. It costs a lot of money to, go on that, maiden voyage. So, a lot of them had money, and they ran corporations that hired a lot of people. Okay. Now, if they die and their wife dies and their children die, depends on how old their children are. If the children are really young, they're not going to take over the business yet. So probably the wife would inherit the business. And most of them would probably sell it because they would be like, I don't want a major corporation. I'm his wife who sits home and decorates the house. Again, this is 1912. I'm not trying to be abusive. I'm just saying what was. What was is what was, you know? That's it. You can't change that now. You can argue it or whatever, but the truth of the matter is most of the men on that ship who were in first class had money and had big businesses that were hiring a lot of people. Now, if the men are saved, they can go back and, you know, they have their children who are with them, and they could get a nanny or get a nanny who they have an affair with, who they end up marrying, or they can get a woman who they marry who could, you know, help take care of the kids with him. Okay. Or a woman lives, you know, which a lot of the women lived, they'd sell their husband's company or try to have somebody else running who would probably screw them over and take a lot of their money. They wouldn't know what to do. They'd be like, I don't know what to do. And they sell the company and they, you know, maybe get swindled out of money anyway. And then the company would go under or whatever, or be sold. And then a lot of the guys who worked there would get fired. A lot of the guys who need money to take care of their wife and kids. A lot of the men who would be the real men in third class, who really, you know, okay, I mean, if they die, is that a big deal? Well, I mean, not as big a deal as the men in first class. I'm just saying what was happening at the time. So that would not be a good thing. So my point here is that, yeah, you know, you should have, I think, if you would have kept a lot of the men alive, you would have kept a lot of businesses alive and a lot of people employed. I think you saving women and children first probably cost a lot of men their jobs, and a lot of caused a lot of families a lot of heartache. That's just, you know. Okay. Now, let me just say this before I exit this podcast. All this is just tongue-in-cheek. I'm not, you know, suggesting this. A lot of people could think of this as a joke, which probably it is. You know, is funny? Yeah, it's funny. Hey, I sing too, you know? So, I don't expect them to save me because who the hell am I? But, you know, a rich dude, you know, who run businesses, employed hundreds of people, yeah, I don't see the fault in, you know, letting him live. But anyway, so yeah, like, get back to what I was saying. Tongue-in-cheek. Serious, half joking, you know. I bet you some people will listen to this and say, yeah, I think he's right. But a lot of people would say, well, what are you know, but don't write me and say, you know, I'm an idiot because, you know, this is kind of comedy, you know? It's not, you know, I should call this half serious, half joking. You know, I should call this podcast because really, what is it? But yeah, it's you know, when I saw this film, I thought a lot of things differently than a 12-year-old because I'm a 31-year-old man. So obviously I'm thinking much differently than a 12-year-old girl. Okay, so that's my thoughts on Cal Hockley, who, you know, really isn't a bad guy. I'm going to call this Cal not really a bad guy. You know, Cal understood. I understand Cal 100%. I think most men understand Cal. Ask most men what they would do. Now, in 2025, what would you do if you brought your wife and her mother on a cruise and then she starts an affair with, you know, somebody else on the cruise? Well, damn, I think I know the answer to that one. I think all of you know the answer also. So that's all I have to say on that, you know. I bet you didn't know this episode 5 of Mental Minutia was going to be about Cal Hockley, Calden Hockley, and let me draw another thing in there while I'm in this, you know, podcast. Billy Zane is a good actor, and I think he was a little bit screwed from that role too. He's coming on now, and like he's making some movies now because it's been, 28 years since the movie was made. So I think people are finally forgiving him. But I mean, I think that just means he played the role so good that people hate him. And I think somebody should have cast him in a good part after that, immediately, so he would have gotten the stink of that role off him, but no one did. And, he's typecast as a bad guy, which in real life, he wasn't a bad guy, and he should have never been typecast in that role because, he's a good actor. I think he's getting his due chance now, and hopefully he'll make something so good and important that people will forget about Cal Hockley, because that's not who Billy Zane is. He played a good role, but that's not who he is. So anyway, that's all I have to say about that. This has been JP Alexander for Mental Minutia. Until next time, treat yourselves good. Calm down. Let the little things pass. Be humble. Again, treat each other nice, because most of us don't mean anything bad in life, We probably don't deserve a lot of the BS we get. So, be nice to each other until next time.